Tonight, we are thrilled to have Andrew Weiss joining us on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, tell us where you're coming to us from tonight.
I'm coming to you from Long Island, New York.
Ooh,
Awesome.
I was just there last summer and it was
Oh,
awesome.
no way.
Yeah.
Which part?
So we stayed on the we went to the nautical mile. We stayed kind of over in that area.
So Jones Beach.
Jones Beach is where we went. But yeah, we loved it.
Yeah,
We
it's a great area. Awesome.
never been there and tried it out and fell in love with it. So
That's great.
fantastic. Cool. So, okay, I'm going to start right off. It's been a couple of months since your new release, your album, The World's Smallest Violin, which I love that
So
name.
do I.
And now you have a new single out. Tell us a little bit about that and the album.
Yeah, totally. They kind of go hand in hand, even though the single is not on that album. But I don't know if you guys know Pete Donnelly from the Figs, the great East Coast band, the Figs. Have you guys ever heard of them?
I've heard of them.
I have
Yeah.
not. So
I
I'm
have.
Okay,
writing it
cool.
down.
Yeah, highly recommend check them out. They're incredible. But yeah, I started to talk to Pete back in 2021 about working together. I was looking for a studio to record my next record, and he has a studio in upstate New York, and we kind of developed a friendship over email. And he's like, "Yeah, come on down to record." So we started recording The World's Smallest Violin, what became that record, and it was just such a pleasure working with him. And once the record was finished, we kind of felt like we had more to do together. So I came back, I guess it was the summer of 2023, and we recorded the single, It May Be a Long Time Till You Get Your Karma, that just came out. And a couple other things that will come out over the next couple of months. So yeah, but yeah, it really just came out of working with Pete that way.
Very
That's awesome.
exciting. I love that. Collaboration stuff always seems to we collaborate, so it's always cool to hear how other
Make
people
that
do
work.
it. So
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
So, how did you get started in a career as a musician?
Yeah, it's funny, like being a musician, like you just kind of are one and you don't even think about when it starts, you know? But yeah, I guess I'd say really I started playing drums when I was 2.5. My parents were very gracious and bought me a drum set when I was 2.5.
Gracious is a good word
that
there.
is a good word. Yes.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, I was just obsessed with the Beatles, and I think they didn't really know what else to do except, let's get this kid an instrument. So that's what they did, and that kind of morphed into over the years playing piano and guitar. And then by the time I was 7 years old, I had started to just become obsessed with writing songs. The idea of that. So I'd make up my own songs. My friends and I would sit at recess together and write our own songs that way. And then yeah, I guess my first band was in elementary school, and then that morphed into other bands along the way. And yeah, I mean, it was just kind of the thing where like I wouldn't rather do anything else, and this is just what I do. So by definition and association, I'm a musician, you know?
That is very cool. So were your parents musical?
Yes, my parents did play when they were younger. My dad played guitar, and my mom played and still does play piano. And they didn't do it professionally, but they love music, and music was always in the house. And yeah, yeah, they were definitely very encouraging.
Very
Very
cool.
cool.
That just lended itself to
Yeah.
you getting into it. I can't believe they did drums at two.
I know.
two and a
I
half,
think
but hey, you know what? It keeps the terrible tooth in check because you get to just beat on something.
That's right. That's right. Maybe there's something to that.
Awesome. So, I know that you taught yourself a lot of instruments. I'm going to ask you, are there any tips for teaching yourself? We're learning piano. We're teaching ourselves piano.
Oh,
So,
cool. That's
yeah.
great. That's
Trying.
great. Hey, look, I actually I still teach music right now to ages ranging from 5 years old to 70 years old. Uh,
Wow.
and what that's taught me is that anything is possible with practice.
Yes.
Like you get into it what you put in, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yes, but as far as teaching, I mean, for me, it came out of necessity because as a songwriter, my idols were Paul McCartney, still are, Lenny Kravitz. I'm trying to think of other people, but really just like people who did it all themselves. Which I kind of found out later. You know, you listen to the first Lenny Kravitz album, Let Love Rule, and you think like that must be a band playing live together because it sounds so raw and cool and but it's really Lenny playing all the instruments. Stevie
Amazing.
Wonder, the same thing, you know, Stevie Wonder, his first couple albums, you know, he's playing all the instruments on that, and you don't realize that that's what's happening until you do the research or read the liner notes later. But uh, I guess that kind of inspiration was necessary for me because I'd be writing songs in my bedroom as a high school kid, and you know, I was professional as far as a drummer goes. You know, I took lessons, I played gigs at that time, but you know, guitar, I just kind of taught myself enough to be able to play my own songs. And then piano, the same thing. I teach myself to be able to play my own songs. It didn't matter about the virtuoso aspect at that point. You know, now I push myself. You know, now that I'm 30 and I you know, look for new ways to be inspired by songwriting. And sometimes that's learning more theory based on the instrument, and that kind of thing, because that just opens up more avenues. But I think back then when I was first getting started and really like getting into teaching myself the instruments, it was more out of necessity to like play my songs and look for ways to open up the instrument to get my songs to come out of me, you know?
Yeah, that makes total sense. So guitar, piano, drums. Do you play other instruments or are you learning other instruments?
I play bass. Uh, Speaking of the world's smallest violin, I did have to take one semester of violin in college. Although I didn't pursue it after that one semester. It was not a fun instrument to play for me. I mean, it was cool in a composer's mindset to learn how it works, but I didn't feel interested in playing it because I mean, probably because you can't get very far with violin in one semester. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
I
have to.
started on viola. I hear you.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go.
I want to ask about melody. Like, how do you develop melody? That's one of the things that we're really trying to figure out for ourselves because we do lyrics a lot and we don't really know how to put the music together with our lyrics yet.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the way that at least it happens for me. I mean when I say, you know, the way it happens for me, it sounds like there's a formula or something. There's no formula. I mean, I could, you know, choose five different songs to talk about of my own and each one was birthed in a different way. You know, like there's just no real like surefire way to do it, and which is kind of the fun of songwriting too, right? You're just poking around and seeing what you can get. But as far as melody goes, generally speaking, these days I feel like lyrics inspire the melody for me.
Okay.
So if I have lyrics first, I'll kind of subconsciously ask myself like, what do these lyrics evoke emotionally? And I'm not sitting there going, okay, this note says this emotion and this note of the melody says that. That would be silly and overkill. But I think subconsciously my mind is working at that level where it's saying, okay, if I'm singing something sad, you know, what melody does that evoke in it, you know?
Yeah.
So
we need more practice.
we did, yeah. It's the practice part that needs to be
I
kicked
think
up.
it's just I think at first it's just trial and error, you know, like you just try something, see what works, and you know, use your influences to like develop your own tastes. Like I don't know, like your favorite songwriters, I think just like zero in on what they do and try and see if that works for you.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too.
What do you do if you get stuck writing a song? How do you get unstuck?
That's a really good question. Uh, so I'll be brutal for a second. One piece of advice that a teacher of mine once gave me in college was that if you're bored or stuck when you're writing a song, throw it away and start over. I get what he's saying. You know, I mean, I think there is some merit to that because if you feel stuck or if the song is stuck or if you're bored with the song, then that means somebody else listening to this most likely will be too. That doesn't necessarily mean it can't be saved. You know, that's kind of where I kind of, you know, go against that theory a little bit. It's like, okay, well, I like some of this stuff. Maybe it could be saved. But I don't know. There's that great story about are you guys Beatle fans at all?
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Great.
Yeah.
Um, you know, John Lennon and George Harrison never really wrote together, from what I understand, but there were a couple of instances where George would ask John for advice on writing songs, and one of the things that John had supposedly said to George was, whenever you're writing a song, even if you feel stuck at some point, make sure you finish the song. Like you get at least like a rough draft, like a working draft, but you could like play back to yourself the next day. Because as soon as you leave the room, as soon as you leave the moment, your initial emotions and your intentions are not the same anymore. So when you revisit that song, if you thought you were stuck in the moment, you'll be even more stuck the next day, trying to get back into that moment. Whereas if you have a rough draft of the song and you can present that to your future self, you can then edit that version of the song with a clear head, as opposed to trying to finish it and getting it just like it's a different entry point, you know?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it probably becomes something completely different if you try to
Mhm.
abandon it and come back to it a different
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
something not original intention.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Where do you draw inspiration from in the world or music or
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a really cliche answer, and you guys probably get this all the time, but anything and everything, you know? My antenna, I try to be cognizant that the antenna is always up and it's always working. Even if I'm not receiving much information, like the wheels are still turning. TV shows I'm watching, relationships between characters, that seems to be kind of a nice source of inspiration these days. Books I'm reading, I really like fiction. So really like any sort of relationship that I am involved with in my own personal life is obviously the easy answer, right? Like you could
Yeah.
say,
Fair game.
friends, family, relatives, like you hear stories and you write songs about that. That's of course the easy one, but I think there's definitely something to taking things out of the fantasy. Like if you take something that's already fantasy, like TV, movie, book, and you write a song about that relationship, it's almost more unique because it's not real, you know?
yeah.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. And it's not as close to you too. So, something we struggle with is we can't get the words right because it's too close. So you're like, "Oh, I want to say this, but I don't know how to say it." So I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and with songwriting too, and especially this scenario that you're asking about, it's like there's no better or worse, like a song is not better because it's real, or a song is
Yeah.
not better because it's drawn from a fantasy experience. I think it's just a different kind of song, like is Maxwell Silverhammer a worse song than
Right.
For No One? Depends on what mood you're in. Sometimes I
Yeah.
just want to listen to Maxwell Silverhammer, and sometimes I can't stand it because I want to listen to For No One. So it kind of depends on the mood.
Well, we
That's
certainly
great.
hope that Maxwell Silverhammer is fictional.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
Oh my gosh. So how would you describe your sound to listeners who haven't heard you yet?
Yeah, I think the best way that it was ever described to me was Power Popicana.
It.
Where you have this world of late 70s power pop, such as Cheap Trick, those Elvis Costello, um, even earlier power pop. I mean, the Beatles in my world are kind of power pop, and there's Tom Petty in that way. But then you kind of have the Americana influence as well, of my music, which is more like Wilco, Buffalo Springfield, Neil Young, that kind of world. So I subconsciously must have merged the two together and caused someone to say that it's Power Papakana, and I thought that was so profound. And to be honest, I was so amazed by that description. I looked it up, and I realized that no one had ever like used that phrase before, and I actually got the trademark for it.
I love it.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
we own the brand of Power Papakana.
I need t-shirts. It's
Yes.
Exactly.
Or zippy hoodies. We like those.
Yeah.
Love the hoodie. Yep, exactly.
That's great. So before you ask your next question, I want to ask a question
Absolutely.
before I forget. How, tell me about, or tell us about how you and your band came together. So you're Andrew Weiss and Friends.
Friends, correct, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not a cop out, which I was very aware of. I mean, of course, when you're coming up with a band name, there's so many things that can come into your head, and there's a million reasons why every band name is the coolest name ever, or it's the lamest thing ever. You know what I mean? But it was a conscious decision to put my name in this band because I had come out of a band before this, the one that I was in for a while since high school, actually. Um, I guess it lasted for almost a decade, I suppose. So it was a long-standing band. Members had changed, but the MO stayed consistent. And by the end of that, it just kind of became a messy breakup, for a lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
And by that point, I was kind of over the Democratic band, if you will. I mean, of course, any good band, there's a from my at least take on this is that every band needs a real leader, um, even in a democracy. I mean, I think it's safe to say that I know I keep bringing up the Beatles, but I can't help it. In a band like the Beatles, Paul McCartney was the leader of the Beatles. As much as they say, it was 25, 25, 25, 25. There has to be some sort of a guy spearheading this, and that's what it was. So I knew that I wanted to be that guy in this project, and I knew that there might be lineup changes throughout, but the MO would stay the same. And so when it came time to choose the name, the way that I kind of got around putting my name there to make myself feel better was that the Friends is not like, how you'll go see a show sometimes and you'll see like Phil Lesh and Friends, or
Yeah.
so and so and Friends, and it's more just a way to describe the people who were there that night as a fleeting thing, where it's like, yeah, we're just like the and Friends, like it doesn't matter who's in that band. Like I don't want mine to be like that, so I really do have uh a certain definition of Friends in my mind, that I consider it, where it's not like this like temporary fleeting thing for one night only. I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
as far as the members of this band go, I guess the first lineup was started in 2016. So that's how old this band is. We're almost 10 years old. 2016, and that lineup did not change until 2021.
Wow.
Um, and then in 2021, the current lineup of the band formed. So this band has really only had two lineups in its 10 years. And I think that speaks volumes as far as like the definition of Friends, that it's not like every single album is a different lineup, or every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
show is a different lineup. There is a consistent flow to this.
It's not
Okay.
fleeting, friends. It's fast and continuous.
Yeah, there you go. Sure, sure.
That's right.
So who does make up the band currently?
Yeah, so right now, I play bass and I sing. Of course, in the studio, we're all kind of multi-instrumentalists, so we all kind of take on multiple roles. But as far as the live setting goes, I play bass and I sing. My wife, Sarah, she is a backing vocalist and she plays percussion as well. Um, my friend Sam Popkin, he plays guitar and sings backing vocals. Jesse Kessler plays the keyboards, and he has actually been in the band since 2016. So he is an original member like
Oh,
me.
gee.
I was going to say the same thing.
That's right. That's right. And then my buddy Joe Pess plays the drums, and yeah, we're a five-piece band right now, and that's our current lineup. Yeah.
Very cool.
So fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, as a creative person and as a musician, how do you, you're touring, you're doing all of the things. How do you maintain physical and mental wellness?
It's really out of pure like intention of doing that. Like you have to go out of your way to do that, because if you don't, um, it just won't happen.
Yeah.
I was actually asked this question a couple months ago, and uh, I think my answer was something like, I'm getting better at doing that. But I think it is a constant struggle, and there are ups and downs to it, depending on the season, depending on the amount of creative inspiration you have in the moment. I tend to find that in moments of prolific activity, it's harder to stay like physically active,
Mhm.
but I feel better mentally in those times, as opposed to when there's a lot of downtime. Maybe there's more time to exercise and take care of yourself, but um, so yeah, I mean, you just have to go out of your way to find it, but it's hard to do it, but I don't think it's impossible.
Hmm. Well, I
Well,
always consider it an investment in my future self
yeah,
That's
because,
right.
we only get one life. And if you take care of yourself now, going forward, you'll be out there
Sure.
still doing it.
That's right.
Right. That's right. That's the way to see it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to ask you the four big questions now
All right.
that we asked on season 4. And
Right.
the first one is, what would you say is your first gig? And what would you say is your best gig so far, or your favorite gig?
Okay. So wait, the first part of that question was what was my
First
First
gig.
gig, yes.
So you can
ooh,
say first gig of your own or for your band, whatever, whichever you would like to answer.
hmm, first gig. Okay, well, I have a funny story about one of my first gigs. Um, so this is my first gig ever, but my previous band, the one that I was talking about before, Andrew Weiss and Friends, our first gig ever was at a club in New York City called the Red Lion.
Hmm.
We were playing, I think it was a Wednesday night, like a pretty like it was like college kids, like the kind of, we were in college. And I had realized that I didn't have a guitar tuner. I didn't bring it with me from home. So I went out to Guitar Center that day and bought a guitar tuner. Now the way that we tune our instruments in America is to 440 hertz. That's like that's an A note, and you've probably seen those numbers all the time. In Europe, they tune it to 442.
Oh, no.
And I had unknowingly bought a European guitar tuner. So I show up to the gig thinking everything's fine. We play our gig, and at some of those New York City venues on Bleecker Street and Thompson Street, you don't really hear yourself very well. So, we thought the gig was great. It played fine. And we were watching the videos back the next day, and I'm going, somebody's out of tune. Like I don't what's going on here. Somebody's out of tune. So, you know, I text everybody in the band. I'm like, were you guys tuning? Did you guys? And they're like, yeah, no, we're all accounted for. And I said, well, I just bought a tuner yesterday. I mean, I was in tune. I was using it during the show, and lo and behold, I sure, I find that it was tuned to 442. So I was the one out of tune the whole gig.
Oops.
Really funny.
Yep, yep. So that was a good lesson.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so that was a good first gig for that band, but it was a fun story to look back on.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite gig that you've ever done, or we could also, I guess, say a favorite venue, a
Yeah.
favorite gig. It's
So far, anyway.
So far, that's right.
Yeah, no, for sure. There is a gig that sticks out to me. So we're of course an original music band. We write our own music, but uh, we kind of fell into this gig in 2023 to play Grateful Dead music at a Grateful Dead Day hosted by the Washington Nationals, the MLB baseball team.
Okay.
Um, so they hired us to do that, and there were about 5,000 people there watching us. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Grateful Dead community, but
Yeah,
I
a
mean,
little bit. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I mean, us as a band, Andrew Weiss and Friends, I mean, we are all Grateful Dead fans, and of course, there's some overlap in our own music to the Grateful Dead sound, but um, before that, we weren't really involved in the community or anything like that. But to see 5,000 Grateful Dead fans just giving off this energy back at you. I mean, you're playing this incredible music. First of all, I mean, the Grateful Dead. I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time. Um, but you're just putting out this music, and they're just giving you this big ball of love, energy, good vibes, and they're just throwing it right back at you. I mean, the experience of playing that kind of music in front of 5,000 people who were just so happy to be there was pretty mind-blowing. And yeah, that sticks out to me as just a really incredible moment in my life, not just as a concert, just being so humble by the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a neat experience and another great story to tell.
That's right. That's right. So you've mentioned lots of people, but if you had to narrow it down to three, who would you say are your influences?
Mm. Yeah, well, I think Paul McCartney, there's no secret there. I mean, he's got to be number one for me. Um, I think Tom Petty would be number two. Yeah, he's just another face on my Mount Rushmore for sure. Um, and then I guess I'd say probably Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Nice.
Um, yeah, just as a songwriter, as a musician, singer, just general human being. Again, he's another one on my Mount Rushmore. But I could go on, and tomorrow maybe I'll change my answer. But right now, that's what I'd say.
Okay,
great.
well, on that same vein, then, what are you listening to on repeat right now? Or what are you obsessed
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I'm going to see Elvis Costello next week, and
with?
right now I've been listening to a lot of Elvis, so I'd say that's probably my current obsession. But again, I say current obsession.
Yes,
I
Right?
exactly.
how do you guys listen to music in chunks of like being immersed in one artist for a span of days or weeks, or do you guys kind of like to switch it up every day or a couple
For
days?
me, it depends on my mood. Like
Yeah.
I'll get into a space where I'm like, this, I'm only listening to this. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hear what's new and kind of, yeah, it just depends on my mood.
And it depends also on how you're getting the music. Like in my car, I have Sirius XM, so I listen to the Beatles channel a lot. But then I also listen to like Elvis Presley and the different channels. But then if I'm listening to like Spotify or something like that, then it's usually one artist.
Yeah.
That I kind of listen and play.
Totally, totally. Yeah, no, I'm always curious about that because I like to spend like a week or two on one artist, and it's not that even that I like to do that. I can't get my headspace out of it. Like
Yep.
I would like to be able to be more inclusive to other artists in my listening experience at one time, but I find that in the span of a year, it's probably like maybe close to 24 artists because I'm just cycling through two per month or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you keep coming back to them? Like there's certain bands that I always come back to. Like I have listened to the Radiohead catalog probably thousands of times. I'm like, oh, gotta listen to them. I'm in the mood again.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the year, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm kind of aware that there's some years where I'll listen to Paul Simon for like a long time, or we'll come back like in the winter and the summer.
Yeah.
I find music very seasonal too.
Yes.
Yeah.
The seasons of music.
Great.
That's right.
Great.
That's right. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it just depends on the mood, really, right? I mean, yeah, yeah. I'll stop there.
So what advice would you give to new musicians and or songwriters?
I think for musicians, because like I was saying before, I teach a lot of young aspiring musicians, and I just encourage them to practice as much as they can. I know it's hard when you'd much rather be doing something else sometimes than practicing and putting in uh just hours to your instrument. And I do get the question a lot as a teacher saying, how can I get better? And I'll say, practice. And they say, but what else? I'm like, that's it. You got to practice. And I truly mean that. So if I was to give just one piece of advice to any musician, it would be to practice. And I mean, and I always back it up to them by saying I still practice. I'm still searching for things and trying to get better at things. So practicing does not end ever. You just kind of keep going, and once you're okay with that, I think then you can really become uh, humble to the instrument and respect it in a way that makes you want to pick it up and play it.
I like that.
Yeah, that's very
It's
good
very
advice.
good advice for us too.
Yeah. Practicers. Well, we have Dave.
I like that.
Yeah, that's very
It's
good
very
advice.
good. So now it's time for your shameless plug. Where can we find you on social media, on website, Bandcamp, all of the things?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so our music is available on Spotify, Apple Music, and I believe pretty much anywhere you want to stream music. We're on Bandcamp as well. We also have vinyl for sale for our most recent album called The World's Smallest Violin. And I ship it myself, so if you order one, I will include a free sticker.
Hey.
We also have t-shirts for sale too. And yeah, that's that. And then we're gonna be for anybody listening on the East Coast, we're gonna be March 8th we'll be at Stereo Garden as part of the Long Island Music Festival. So
Oh, very cool.
it'll be a fun night where a bunch of Long Island acts will perform.
So
How
excited to hear
fun.
that you have vinyl because we are vinyl collectors. So
Oh,
you
cool.
have to check that one out.
Nice. Yeah, I love collecting vinyl as well. That was kind of a COVID thing for me where I just really got into it. Actually, my friend Will and my friend Chris, we started this podcast. It actually sits in the vault unreleased right now. We in the like really depths of COVID times, we each kind of brought in our record collections, and we would um, hook up via some app that we had where we would like listen to each other's vinyl in perfect fidelity, and we would just comment on it, and we'd have themes. I mean, we did the Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers. We did like records produced by Jimmy Iovine, like just really like all these things, and we did it for weeks. But there's some really good stuff there, but it sits in the vaults right now. But we'll maybe one day we'll get to it.
But that'd be fun. Yeah, vinyl has just been it's
Oh,
become an obsession, and I
Uh-huh.
try sometimes like we found a couple of really awesome places to go. One is in Kansas City because we live
Yeah.
about 3 hours from there, and we're
Oh,
huge
cool.
fans. So we go down there
Yeah.
and like we cannot go to the record
Yeah, do
store
not
this
go in
time.
there.
No record store this time. Next time maybe, but
You guys have like a really prized piece of vinyl, like one that you have like that's like, wow, I can't believe I found this.
So mine probably, and I found it, but I paid quite a bit for it, is the Four Thieves Gone by the Avett Brothers.
Cool.
And I was like, oh, I have to buy that. I know I can't afford it, but I'm totally buying it.
I have
Nice.
two. One is really funny, and the other one is just one that I just love. I have Michael Jackson Thriller, which I love,
Awesome.
and then
Awesome.
I also have Richard Marx that I found, and I love him. And so
Yeah, nice. Nice.
that one was when I found it, I'm like, yeah, I've been looking for
That's great.
I love it. I love it. That's so cool.
So much fun. Oh my God.
amongst others. There's so many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for being on our podcast. It has been a
Yes.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me. This was such a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.